Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And I am so glad to have today with me Chris. Is it Michael or Michel?
Michel.
Michel.
Yep.
Okay, like the French pronunciation, right?
Yes.
Nice. Okay. So I meant to ask our mutual friend that before we had this conversation. And I should have asked you right before we came on
I should have
camera.
warned you. My fault. It's okay.
So I am so happy to have Chris Michel here. He is coach at Coach Chris Consulting. I'm gonna let him go ahead and tell a little bit about himself. We're gonna get into his story and everything about that in just a few minutes, but I kind of wanted him to just kind of say who he is and what he does.
Sure. So I am a sales and business coach for the HVAC, plumbing, electrical, home services, trades industry. I've been in that industry for the last almost 19 years. And so it's kind of where I live. I've done sales for 30 plus years. And now I just get an opportunity to help people to do better at sales, to overcome objections, and to really allow people to buy is really what it comes down to. But I also help people, contractors, with their businesses and helping them to develop their cultures and really develop a business plan the way that they really want to, so that they can grow their business and eventually do what they want to do.
Nice. Not knowing this about you, I knew a little bit about you, but not knowing some specifics before we get on a call. I know a connection that I need you to make, or I need to make with you to someone else, just based on what you just said, because I know you can help them out a lot. So we'll talk about that after the call.
Very cool.
Now I like to just kind of get into some fun questions, some kind of getting to know you sort of thing. So the first one is, finish this sentence. Overwhelm is blank.
Oof. Overwhelm is, for me, it's anxiety. It's a feeling that it does happen from time to time, because I try and do too many things at once, right? And I'm a classic overthinker by that, and a serial perfectionist. And so I can get to this place of overwhelm if I'm not careful, because I think too far ahead, or I think too much about what this will happen, or if this is right, or if it's not right. And so it becomes anxiety because of that, right? Because I'm trying to think too much about it. We'll talk more about this, I'm sure, but I just finished the audio version of my book and published it and did all that stuff, right? And there were serious times of like, okay, why am I doing this? And it's like, it's good enough. It really is good enough. And so learning how to understand when to kind of cut it, right? And say, we're good. We're really good on this. And it reduces the amount of overwhelm that I feel. Other than that, I don't feel overwhelmed by very many things, because I've learned to kind of take a different approach, right? To take a more, what I call a mindful approach, where I can surrender to things and know that I'm doing the best that I can with what I have.
I really like that answer. Do you care if I give you my perspective?
Go. Yes.
Yes, it is anxiety for me as well. But I've learned to welcome it. And the reason being is because it means I'm being stretched, right? It's putting me in an uncomfortable position, right? The reason I have anxiety is because I'm uncomfortable. And if I'm uncomfortable, this means I'm being stretched. So I just changed my perception of it. Yes, I'm uncomfortable, of course, but the idea, okay, this is actually a good thing, right? Because I'm being stretched. So
yeah, no, that's a good perspective. Absolutely. Yeah.
So the next question, I'm a golfer.
Yes.
And we both look alike, so we both should play golf. Yes, he
Go ahead.
is a golfer. So as you play golf, is there a favorite course that you've ever played?
That I've ever played. Boy, I've gotten to play some pretty cool golf courses. When I was in college, I got to play at Hilton Head. And when I was early on in my HVAC career, I got the opportunity to play at Sugarloaf, where they do what they did for years, the AT&T Classic. And so I've gotten, several different things. I live in Georgia. And so I played the Georgia Standard Club and some of these, really, really, really good clubs. But I've also played Bears Best out in Vegas and, some others out in Vegas that are just incredible and beautiful. Um, but man, favorite, that's a tough one. I would probably have to go with the Bears Best. And actually the one here in Atlanta, there's a Bears Best here in Atlanta and another one in
Wow.
Vegas. And what they do is they take the best of the best holes, right, from all of his courses that he's designed, and they put them into 18 holes here. And so
Wow.
you've got these incredible holes, and it's very picturesque, and it's really, really cool.
Nice, nice. I don't know if you've ever been to Tennessee, but one of my favorite
Yeah.
places to go is Fairfield Glade. They have like 5 courses there. Stonehenge is one of those, and that's a PGA course.
Yep.
I did not get to play that one when I went there. Unfortunately, I played Druid Hills, which was also very nice.
Yeah.
But they have 5 golf courses there. So if you ever get up to Fairfield Glade, Tennessee, all those courses are really
Very
nice
nice. Yeah,
there.
I lived in Memphis for a number of years, so
Nice,
and
nice.
family that lives in Nashville, so I understand Tennessee a little bit.
Nice. So lots of pics of you when I went and searched on social media, lots of pics of you near the water. So I imagine you love the water. And so my question is, would you rather own a lake house or a beach house? Or do you already own one or both?
Neither, honestly, neither, which is really funny because the pictures that I'm sure you're talking about are cruises that I take because I love to go on cruises. I've learned to enjoy those. So I've been to Alaska, I've been to Hawaii, I've been to New England and the Caribbean, right? I mean, I've done those things, and that's where a number of those pictures I'm sure came from. But I don't want to live on the beach. I don't want to live on the ocean. I don't have a fear of hurricanes. I have a healthy respect of hurricanes.
Yeah.
And I know enough. I grew up in the Midwest where tornadoes were kind of our
Mm,
thing. And that's just a tornado on water, right? I mean, it's more powerful, don't get me wrong, but it's a tornado on water. And I just don't play with tornadoes. So I'd like to be closer to the water to where it wasn't, a half a day trip to get over
mhm.
to the water. But I don't have a boat, or I mean, I've been on boats and that kind of stuff and I enjoy them, but no, I'd rather be on a golf course somewhere, quite
Nice,
frankly.
nice. And a lot of times there's smaller bodies of water, but there's water on a golf course.
There's
I like to
always
avoid
water on a
that
golf
water.
course and I always find it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, me too. Um, I had a follow-up question for that, but it's escaping my mind right now. You admit, so not necessarily a follow-up question, but I used to live in Charleston. I think I saw a picture of you where you went to John's Island.
Mhm,
So I lived like, and I grew up in Florida, so I lived right on the beach and in
mhm.
Charleston, not far from the beach.
Yeah,
It's weird when you're a resident how often you don't go to the beach.
I bet. Well, and the thing is, when all the trips I made to Charleston, I think we were on the water twice
Mm,
of all the trips that I've ever made there. And I enjoy Charleston. I kind of still am, but I used to be a real foodie, and
mhm,
we would eat our way through Charleston, right? So we'd find the really good restaurants, and we normally stayed downtown, and occasionally we'd go to just little spots north or south, but really we spent the majority of the time in the downtown area, in the historic district, and right, and doing things in that world, if you will. And I mean, we'd go to Sunday brunch, right? And where the gospel choir is singing, right there, and the gospel choir is 3 people, but they've got this gospel choir singing at one of the local restaurants, one of the finer restaurants, right? And that's Sunday morning brunch, right? And but those are the experiences, right, that you find is when you find a place like Charleston or something like that. Yeah, it's really, really cool, and they've got some great things to learn and to see and to understand about the city and the location. But yeah, I think we went kayaking once and we went on a boat once. And that was,
nice. So for the viewers who have not been to Charleston, it is a great, great city to visit.
yeah,
And I will say, when I was a resident there was no way that I could ever run out of good places to eat. It
yeah,
is one of the best culinary cities in the country.
Yeah.
So if you get a chance to visit there, definitely go out to eat all the time while you're
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
You will not be disappointed.
Yes.
Awesome. So let's get into your story. I want to know like how you got started in what you're doing now, and then how you've evolved it over the years.
So I started in sales out of college. I went to school for architecture and realized a couple years in that this wasn't for me. And so I took a speech communications class, loved it. And so I learned how to talk in college. I went to the University of Illinois. I walked on and played football. And so I had the experience of what I would say the sales experience of having that stick to itiveness and the ability to build resilience, right? And accept the no's and that kind of thing. And so going into sales was kind of a natural transition for me. And so I went into sales and eventually got into, like I said, almost 19 years ago, I got into heating and air conditioning. And I was the guy that would come to your house and talk to you about replacing your heating and air system. And then eventually I ran a couple of heating and air conditioning companies and was an ops manager and a sales manager, right? And then I went to work for one of the manufacturers. And after that time, and that ended almost 2 years ago to the day, I started my own business. And so when I started my own business, I initially thought, oh, I can sell to anybody, right? I mean, I can take my program and what I'm doing and the processes and the metrics and that kind of stuff, and I can engage with anybody. But then I realized I don't want to work with anybody. I want to work with the trades. I want to work with the people that I know and use the experience that I've had for the last 18 years, well, at the time, 16, 17 years, right, of experience and utilize that for the trades and make that a better place, right? And make that a better opportunity for people. And so that's really what got me into and involved with that particular business and why I'm doing the sales consulting today. And so a lot of it is sales, but again, like I said, some of it is I get the opportunity to work with people on their business and help them with their culture and help them with their technicians and their office staff and right and understanding the P&Ls and how do you price things and how do you do all these things. But that was all just kind of what I've done over the last couple of years, is really honed in on those particular, if you will, the trades, and kind of focused on that.
Nice. I can't wait to get you in touch with this person I need to get you in touch with. But that's neither here nor there for the
That being
audience. I
said,
apologize,
yes.
audience. So, but I already know that you'd be a great help to them. So now I really want to get into your areas of expertise, and I also want to talk about your book. So,
Okay.
first thing is, I want to know, since you've been a sales manager and you help with sales, what is the secret to being a world-class sales manager?
Oh, sales manager. Oof. Well,
Yeah.
number one, I have grown weary of that word, manager, because I'm a fan of Simon Sinek and
Mhm.
John Maxwell, and right, I mean, all of these guys that talk about leadership and the difference between leadership and management. I quickly learned how to get away from managing things and really leading people. And so I wouldn't ask my people, number one, as a sales leader or sales manager, I would never ask my people to do something I wasn't willing to do. And so really putting myself in their shoes and understanding where they're at and what they're dealing with. Like we were talking about earlier, how do we deal with the anxiety, the overwhelm, the objections that come up, right? These things that come up. One of the things that I've kind of honed in on is I get to help heal self-inflicted sales harm that people do, and helping people understand the problems really start with us when we open our mouth, right? And that's where we fail people too often. And so as a manager, it's how do we listen? How do we ask the right questions? How do we find out what is important to the client in order to present them with exactly what they need instead of using a shotgun approach or throwing up on people, right? And so as a manager or as a leader, it's listening to your people, asking them the right questions, doing ride-alongs, doing evaluations, and not to criticize them, but to help them, right? To get better so that you don't have to ride with them, so that they can increase their closing percentage or increase their average ticket, or right, so they can get better at doing what they do, which is taking care of the clients.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one of the key things that I heard in there, and something that I practice, is the listening aspect. The best salespeople listen more than they talk, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so that's amazing. Now let's talk about the book a little bit.
Okay.
It's called The Red Chair Experience, and first off, who should read it, and what will they gain from reading it? Oh, and actually, what
Well,
is it about first? What is it about? Who should read it?
so
And
let's
what will they
let's
gain?
start with this. This is the red chair experience. And this is actually my chair. This is the chair that sits in my master suite. And so it's a chair that's passed down to me from one of my business mentors, which was my stepdad. He passed away in 2016. I then brought the chair over to my younger brother in 2018. And unfortunately, he died by suicide in 2019. And so my sister-in-law, my niece and nephew no longer wanted the chair around because it just reminded them too much of him. And so I said I would hang on to it. If the kids want it later, they can have it, but I'll hang on to it. I'll put it to good use. And I started writing the book. And so the book is a daily inspiration for success in life and business. And it's designed to literally just give you a little boost, a little something to think about every single day. Now, some of it is sales related, some of it is business related, but most of it is personal. And it's about your life and about the things you do and the choices that we make every single day, or that we're presented with, right? It talks about grief. It talks about loss. It talks about the ups. It talks about the downs. It talks about a lot of different things, because those were the books that I was reading. I was reading these daily inspirations that weren't all fluff, right? And go rah, rah team. It was, hey, these are real questions with real answers, and got me to think more about what am I doing? And so it helped me to understand the emotional side of me and how I can integrate that now into my life, because I'd never grown up doing that. I didn't understand that, right? And so who's the book for? It's really for anybody, but I'm going to narrow it down and say it's really for the 30 to 55 professional men and women, and not just white collar. I'm talking blue collar. I'm talking really anybody in the professional world that is looking for something to reflect on a daily basis. And that's what it's designed for. It's really to help people to think a little bit differently.
Nice. So it would be a good thing to, if you're a professional in business, whether it's blue collar or white collar, as you said, or you're a business owner, entrepreneur, like most of
Yeah.
my listeners are, to make part of your daily routine, right? Your morning routine. If you have things that you do in the morning, you could have this book as, I mean, it fits,
Yeah.
it's not just a book you read, it's a book you go back to on a daily basis, right?
I've read it this year. I've read it this year probably 4 or 5 times, and I still read it every day.
Wow. Wow.
And the reason I do is because I don't look at it from the perspective of, oh, I wrote this. A lot of times I look at it and I go, this is something for me to think about. And sometimes I go, oh, I remember that story, right? Or I remember that. But there are times when I'm like, that's a really good thing for me to think about today, right? That's just good stuff. And so it's an opportunity for people to, you can pick it up, you can put it down, you can pick it up, you can put it down. I know people who've read it all in one sitting. I know people who have used it with their companies as a book of the month club, right? And the feedback that I got from the book of the month, kind of atmosphere was, it opened up a different conversation with their employees. And so they discussed, what did you get from this? What did you think about it? Right? Let's talk a little bit more about it. And what does that mean to you? And when you start asking those questions on top of the questions that I'm, presenting in the book, it's really fascinating the conversations that you can have. Right. And so I think that's where, and back to the whole idea of management or leadership, right? If we can get our people to talk, right, and we can ask the right questions, we can learn a whole lot more about our people, and we can be better leaders because now we know which direction to help them with, right?
Yeah, that speaks a lot to culture, to
Yeah,
me, building
right.
company culture and getting that buy-in. If you show that you care and you're having these type of conversations with your employees, you get that buy-in, and they're with you for the long haul, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And the cool thing is I had a high school friend reach out, and she bought the book, and then she sent me a message, text message or whatever, Facebook message, right? And she's like, wow, I really enjoyed this so much. Just the couple of weeks I've had it, I'm buying it for my team. And I'm going to encourage everyone on my team to read this as well. And I was like, wow, that's really cool, right? I mean, that people see the value in it, and they see, like you're talking about, how can I help my team, right? With this or something else, something like it, right? I mean, how can I inspire my team and show them that I care, right? That's when you do little things like that and engage with them, it's huge.
yeah, I'd like to. I don't have a copy of the book yet, but I'm going to get a copy of the book. And when I
We'll work
do,
that out.
I'll read it, and then it might be a good idea to have you back on and kind of just get my takes on the different things in the book. I think
Yeah.
that'd be a great thing to do. Um, it's weird that I structured the questions this way, but let's transition back to sales,
Okay.
because my audience are entrepreneurs and they're really interested in being better at sales.
Sure.
So is there kind of steps that you can take to become highly skilled at sales? Is there like a roadmap of sorts?
So one of the things that I share with people is, if you don't have a process, you need to get a process. And that may sound really trivial or kind of, oh, well, that's no big deal. It is a big deal, because when you follow a proven and repeatable process, it's amazing what you can accomplish. And so the best salespeople that I know and that I've run into and that I've worked with all have a sales process, right? And the ones that don't do as well are all over the map. And they're like, well, we're just trying to go with the flow. I understand that, but you go with the flow within the parameters of your process, right? And when you do that, it makes it a lot easier for you. The other thing, if you want to be highly skilled at anything, Malcolm Gladwell talks about 10,000 hours being the kind of the measuring point, if you will, for becoming an expert. And I agree with that to a certain extent. Some of that we can fast forward, right? But you're talking 5 years of dedicated work to make 10,000 hours. If you practice on a regular basis, much like baseball players or football players or any athlete, right? They practice their craft. You have to be willing to spend time practicing. Who are you going to practice with, right? Can you practice with your boss? Can you practice with a coworker? Can you practice with your spouse? There are people that you can practice with to help you, so that when you hear certain things, you go, oh, that's what I should say. That's how I should answer this, or this is what I should ask, right? And one of the things I do with a lot of the training that I do is role playing, because it helps people to listen a lot better, because when you hear things over and over and over again, you get to the point where you don't go, oh, I've got the answer for it. You go, here's what I heard. Wait a minute. What I heard was, right. So the famous question that a lot of people ask about HVAC. Hey, Doug, I appreciate what you're saying. You're my technician. Got a question for you. What would you do if this were your house? Right. You've shown me 3 options, 5 options. That's great. What would you do if this were your house? And what I share with people about that is, there's 2 things that people should hear from that statement alone. One is, I totally trust you, which is great, right?
Mhm.
Because like trust, right? You want to work with those people. So the number 1 is they trust you, but number 2 is they can afford any one of the options that they've asked about, that you've shown them. I mean, and so when you understand that, then you answer the question honestly. If you are me personally, I buy higher than average, right? I don't buy top of the line all the time, but I don't buy the bottom of the bottom end all the time either. I buy higher than average. So I want something with a little bit more quality, with a little bit more, it's going to be around for a while. It's got a better warranty, whatever, right? So that's my honest answer. If I have the opportunity, that's what I share with people, right? And so it's listening, it's practicing, and then developing these objections what I've learned in sales is there's in each sales company I've been with, right? Or each company I've been with in sales, there's really only about 6 or 7 objections, and they're all pretty much the same, right? And you hear it over and over and over again. So the best way to overcome an objection is not to answer the objection, it's to answer it before it becomes an objection, right? And so practice your objection handling right on the front end, so you build value in the things that you know are going to come up. I can't afford it. I need to talk with somebody. We've got somebody that I know in this industry. I need to get 3 or 4 quotes, right? All of these are standard objections that you hear. So why not practice what's the value that you add that can overcome any one of those? And the more you do that, the better you're going to be. Obviously, you need to know your product, but then learn how to ask the right questions so you can listen and listen to exactly what they're saying. And you'd be amazed at what you'll hear.
Yeah. You can't really fix their need unless you really hear what their need is, right?
No, it's writing a prescription without, without doing the diagnosis properly, right? And
Yeah.
we talk about that a lot.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, for being on the podcast. Where do people, like, for someone that is looking for, especially entrepreneurs in the trade field, I would
Yeah,
imagine, are your ideal clients, where would they go to find out more about getting in touch with you?
sure. The best way to reach me is coachchrisconsulting.com. And there you can find everything about me, my business, my contact information. I'm on social media, so LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, right? Instagram. I'm on all of those. And you can see some videos and some things that I've done on my website, and excerpts from the Red Chair, all of that stuff. And yeah, but that's the easiest way to reach me is coachchrisconsulting.com.
Okay, we'll put all the social media links to your website below. Is there a specific place that they would go to get the book?
So if you're in the States and you want a signed copy, go to theredchairexperience.com or just go to my website. It's embedded in there. Or if you don't care, if you want a digital copy, if you want to, you live outside of the States and you want to get a regular paperback copy, you can go to any one of the outlets that you go to, Amazon, Target, Walmart, right? Whatever, Barnes and Noble, Books Unlimited, whatever, right? And wherever you buy your book, that's where you can get it. My book is actually available also on Audible as well as Spotify. It just came out on Spotify as well, which I was really surprised at. Yeah. And so yeah, anywhere you get your audiobook, you can find my book. Anywhere you get the paperbacks, you can find it. The digital copies are out there as well.
Nice. So like I said, if you are watching this on video, the links will be in the description. If you're listening to this as a podcast, it'll be in the show notes. So be sure to go check out the book. And if you are needing some business coaching or some sales coaching or some guidance and you're a trades oriented business, definitely reach out to Chris. Any parting words for our entrepreneurs, any words of wisdom that have always carried, you carried through your journey?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is if you don't have somebody that you're working with, if you don't have a coach, and I'm not saying this per se from me, I'm saying from a business standpoint, from a life standpoint, if you don't have a coach, get accountability partners, get somebody in your life that can help you with a mentor or a mastermind group. Being an entrepreneur is not easy, but it's amazing the rewards and all that you can get from doing what you're doing. And you're doing an amazing job. I'm sure you're doing an amazing job. Don't forget to get help, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
That's some awesome advice. Like, you can go leaps and bounds forward by getting a mentor or plugging into the right masterminds and things like that. So thank you for sharing that. So thank you, Chris, again, and thank you, Trailblazers. And we will see you next time. Until then, keep moving forward.